Huh? No, it isn't. It is? Balls! Dude, the X-Men 97 theme is copyrighted? Oh, dang it. Dude, that was my whole intro. That sucks for you guys, too. You were gonna get such an epic rendition of the X-Men 97 theme in acapella. If you clicked on this video, you've already been disappointed, so why not stick along? Yeah, I am sitting for this. I know. I've been standing in the past videos, but I sat in a different video I made, and it was just so much more relaxed. So I figured, why not? You get to sit when you're watching this. Probably watching this on the toilet right now, you pervert. Come on, let me sit, alright? So yeah, this is going to be an episode on X-Men 97. I already did one of these a while ago, just on the first 3 episodes. And it did so well, so I thought, why not do another one? Huh? Oh, it... Really? Huh. Why am I doing this? That joke is extra funny because I'm filming this for a second time. So, I really don't know why I'm doing this. Anyways, X-Men 97 is such a great TV show. It really is. I think it's probably the best that Marvel has done. So I'm just going to go through, kind of just talk about each episode a little bit and what I think is so good about them, and then, give them a little rating, and we'll go from there, I guess. Starting with episode 4, Motendo / Life Death Part 1. This is definitely the weakest for me out of the 5 other episodes. No, out of the 7 other episodes. It's trying to do too much in one episode for me. It's 2 different storylines that are very, very different from each other, and it just doesn't work for me. I love Jubilee, but this Motendo storyline just felt kind of boring, I guess. I don't know. It fell apart for me. I didn't know enough about any of the other characters to really feel any care for this, aside from seeing Jubilee in action, which was cool. The Storm storyline I did like, but it just wasn't enough, right? We get basically just a little bit of it, and then that owl shows up, and I'm like, who is this? I'm too proud of that. That's the issue. I was too proud of that joke. I just would have liked to see more of them in this episode, Forge and Storm. I just think that their relationship is interesting. They just don't give us enough of it for us to really care, That being said, this is probably the weakest episode. I would have to give it a 6 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's just not good compared to how great these other episodes are. Episode 5 is, in my opinion, by far the best because of the emotional arc of the characters in this episode. This focuses mostly on Rogue and Gambit and Magneto. Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto kind of have a love triangle going on in this, right? Rogue and Gambit have been kind of established as a couple in this series, but Rogue can't touch Gambit because of her power set, right? She absorbs people, and touching Gambit could kill him or get rid of his powers, or, it's dangerous, so she can't touch him. And Magneto, who she also has a history with, she can touch, because he can create, a small magnetic field around him, and she can touch him. Or at least close to touch, that gives the sensation of touch. I don't know. There's some comic workaround for it. But the point is, touch is an important part of a romantic relationship, and that is something that she can get with Magneto that she can't with Gambit. And so when Magneto asked her to help him rule Genosha in this episode, she chooses to go with Magneto, and she ends up basically breaking up with Gambit. This no touching thing is going to come back later. That's important. But I'm going to talk about Genosha for a second, because this is really cool to see thematically in this show, because Xavier is gone at this point, but through Genosha, his dream is still very much living on, and it's nice to see, that this is a possibility, that Genosha a paradise for mutants where they can be treated, equally can exist. It's very cool to see. And it makes it that much sadder when the Sentinel comes. There is a Sentinel in this episode that comes and massacres pretty much everyone on Genosha. And it's really, really sad. It's so hard to watch. It's animated beautifully and so emotionally, but it's very sad. In this, battle, Magneto is thought to have died. He doesn't, but he risks his life saving these other, mutant children on the island. And Rogue and Gambit go straight for the Sentinel themselves, right? And Gambit ends up using his powers to push Rogue out of the way and sacrifices himself to kill the Sentinel.
The name's Gambit, mon ami. Remember it.
In doing this, he dies. And we get probably the most sad and well-written scene in the show, where Rogue approaches Gambit's dead body and says, "I can't feel you."
Sugar. I can't feel you.
This is such a great closer for this episode, because it brings full circle right back to this moment, because she can touch Gambit now, because he is dead, there's no risk, but she can't feel him. That's part of the purpose of physical touch in a relationship, is to feel that other person with you, the person that you love. And she can't feel Gambit. She hasn't really been able to before, but now she really can't. She can touch him, but she can't feel him. And it's just such a sad moment, and it pays off emotionally so well. Like, this episode is titled Remember It, and boy is it accurate, because I don't think there's anyone who watched this show who will not remember this episode vividly, because it is heartbreaking. I'm a sucker for emotional stuff, and well written at that. So this episode for me is my favorite. I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Episode 6 is Life Death Part 2. I like this one vastly better than Life Death Part 1. It gives us two storylines that are way more fleshed out, in my opinion. It again goes back to Storm and Forge, but this time we get to see their relationship build and what their dynamic together is going to look like, right? And we get an absolutely killer moment with Storm. When she gets her powers back, she transforms into her comic accurate self. She gets that black suit, the longer hair. It is just, oh my god, it's such a cool moment, dude. This is one of the most hype moments in the show for me. Just the way that it's done, the visuals. It's such a cool payoff, I guess, from what we've been seeing from her character. On the other side of things, the other story is about Xavier on another planet. So he is, in fact, alive, as multiple people thought, because he didn't ever die in the show. He just got whisked off to another planet. And he's alive. He has a bride, and he's about to be kind of married into being ruler of another planet, but he is struggling with the loss of his X-Men, not being around them. And this whole episode kind of ponders with the idea of giving Xavier, another life, letting him step away from the X-Men and having a real life, forgetting about them and staying on this planet. But he just can't. At the end of the episode, he has a psychic, vision that shows him that Gambit has died, and he has to come back. And again, this is building up hype for more episodes that Charles Xavier is coming back to his X-Men. This is not as good as episode 5 in my opinion, but it is a great episode. I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10 because that double storyline does kind of interfere with giving you the best of either one. But it's done so much better than Life Death Part 1. Okay, then there is the episode Bright Eyes. Bright Eyes is a really cool episode because the X-Men 97 format is it'll give you a story right about the X-Men, but it tends to focus on one of the X-Men as like its protagonist, its main character. Rogue was that for episode 5. Remember it? Rogue and Gambit, right? But what this episode does is it takes, protagonist from the death of Gambit, right? That Remember It episode, and it directly shows the effects on that protagonist. It does a really good job of carrying through the themes, right, of episode 5, but showing almost the flip side of it. We're showing Rogue's remorse and her mourning for Gambit, and she does not take it well. She kind of goes crazy in this episode. She destroys like a bunker that was made for the Hulk. She throws Captain America's shield up to like a mountain. That was insane. She's basically like, here boy, go catch and like frisbeeing it away. It's whoa. That's a cool moment. But in the end of the episode, we see Rogue really kind of break, and she ends up dropping a guy from the top of a building. He is evil. He does kind of deserve it, as Wolverine points out. But we get to see this darker side of Rogue that has been shown to us a little before, right? So remember, she was working with Magneto pre-X-Men. She was kind of a villain. So, we do know that Rogue has this darkness, but to show it to us in this way, that like seeing her unhinged because of the loss of Gambit is scary as a viewer, because we know how powerful she is and we don't want to see her lose her way as a hero. And it's also really good foreshadowing for her eventual siding with Magneto in the finale. This episode is kind of like the penultimate episode, because there is a 3-part finale after this, and it does a really good job of setting up the threat of this. It brings Cable back, and it shows us like the strength of these human sentinel things created by Sebastian. But yeah, that I would give that episode, let's give it a 9 out of 10. Give it a 9 out of 10. I really like what they did with Rogue's character, and yeah, I thought it was a great episode. There's some good Wolverine quips in this episode too. Now, I'm going to talk about the finale, the 3-part finale, kind of just, as one whole episode, because it's late and I'm tired, but also it's one big episode. Let's be honest, guys. Come on. I'm going to kind of break this into 3 sections. We're going to talk about Magneto and Xavier. We're going to talk about Sebastian, and we are going to talk about just setting things up for the future. Magneto and Xavier are the hearts of this show, right? They are the friends that started it all, who are also kind of enemies. And I just really appreciate the way their characters are done, right? I love that they're constantly in conflict with each other, but they also love each other on such a deep level. Part 3 of this shows us kind of them realizing that each other are mutants, right? They're discussing with each other in a bar, they're talking about mutants, and they almost kind of come out to each other as mutants, I guess. This is definitely made to reflect 2 men kind of coming out to each other in a less accepting society, and that's kind of what the X-Men were made to be. They were made to be like metaphors for the minorities and the groups of people who were, denied rights when they should be outwardly given them. That's what I love so much about this show, is it really reflects on that, and it's not afraid to show us that the X-Men are treated awful by society, and that our country as a whole kind of still has an issue with how it's treating its minorities. This 3-part episode really shows us Magneto and Xavier just as a whole. It shows us their relationship and how they can't really exist with each other, but they can exist without each other. In this last episode, Xavier hijacks Magneto. Nope, that's still not right. Xavier hijacks Magneto's mind. He basically mind controls him and gets him to bring the magnetic field back to Earth to save everyone. But what happens is Magneto has so much pain within him, and Xavier has so much pain within him. When their minds are together, it kind of is all, it's dangerous for them. They could die in there. So Xavier basically has to help Magneto move past his pain so that they can safely get out of his mind, essentially. And this is shown through a beautiful metaphor of, they're in the bar where they met, which is Magneto's mind, and there is waves of emotional pain and an ocean of memories that are flooding in on them. Xavier helps Magneto through this. It takes him a while, but he shows his admiration for his brother. Charles and Magnus are really brothers in this series, and it shows. It shows how much they care about each other, and they're only able to get out of this situation with each other's help. Magneto's only able to move past some of this pain because of Xavier. And Xavier, he's only really able to successfully achieve his dream with Magneto. They need each other, and they respect each other, and it's shown in this, and it's a great example of their love for each other and how it kind of trumps any conflict that they really have. This also is a great setup for the character of Onslaught, who is going to be, my guess, is a pretty big plot point of Season 2. This is what happens when Xavier and Magneto's mind kind of merge together. And we will see how that pain that they both still have will come through in the form of, an actual villain. Moving on from Charles and Magneto, I want to talk about the villain of this series, Sebastian. So I realized as I'm editing this that I just keep calling him Sebastian. His name is actually Bastion, which is close enough, I would say. But for whatever reason, I just keep saying Sebastian. So it's fine. It's fine. Just keep that in mind. Sebastian is a really cool villain. I did not know anything about him going into this. And I really liked him. I thought that he was a very cool villain. I thought his motivations were a good, conflict for the X-Men. It was a good juxtaposition to what they want, where he doesn't want acceptance for what he is. He just wants basically eradication, right? It's that tolerance or extinction. He just wants extinction. This is a great villain for the X-Men to have, right? Because it just directly opposes everything that they stand for. And I would have loved to see this guy actually in live action. I don't think there was any representation of him in live action, but I think Marvel should look into it. I think it would be really cool to see, especially his, robotic design in live action could be super cool. Wrapping up, I just want to talk about, how this sets up for the next season. There is a scene in this where after Magneto rips the metal out of Wolverine, he is hospitalized. And this, by the way, this scene is so cool. It's ripped right from the comics, basically detail for detail, and it's such a painful, the sound effect that they use. Oh my god, it's such, it makes you very uneasy. You watch it and you go, ooh. Ooh. Why did I watch? Ugh. You get it. It's very hard to watch, but that being said, Magneto's in the hospital and Morph actually confesses their romantic feelings for Wolverine. Now, before you go to the comments saying, oh, it was brotherly love, no. Dude, the writer of the show said that it was romantic feelings. And the fact that some people are kind of, denying this and basically taking away some of its meaning is kind of BS. Like, why can't these two characters possibly have romantic feelings for each other? Like, it doesn't make sense that some people are getting so bothered by this. Wolverine is canonically bi in the Marvel Universe, and Deadpool is canonically pan. We could have a Deadpool and Wolverine relationship in this movie. Like, and that shouldn't bother people. The fact that it does is kind of ridiculous to me. And yet again, it's another great example of Marvel kind of diving into that diversity that X-Men is all about, right? Those minority groups, those people who need the spotlight in Hollywood now and in media, and it gives us more of that, which I really think is great for them to do. I think in the future, in Season 2, I hope we get to see a little bit more of this. I hope Morph confesses these feelings as themselves, not as Jean Grey. So, we'll see, but I think that would be a really cool setup and emotional arc for that character. We also get to see, these people brought essentially to different timelines, right? One thing I will say about these episodes is it does a really great job of Scott Summers, Jean Grey, and Cable. Starting out at part 1, they're kind of, a distant, broken away family on this little road trip, I guess, even though they're fighting these Sentinels. It's like the closest superheroes can have to a road trip. And they grow closer as a family until Scott has to leave his son again. And this is just such a great emotional arc for Scott. We get to see him grow close to his son that he had to let go of at the beginning of the season. And in the end of this season, as Asteroid M is destroyed and someone brings them to another spot in time, he gets reunited with his son at a younger age. Even though it's in the future, Cable was dropped off in the future. Nathan was dropped off in the future, so it would make sense that he's younger here. And Scott is once again reunited with his son, along with Jean Grey. So I'm very excited to see this in the next season. I want to see them bond and get closer. And I was really sad when Cyclops lost his son, and I am appreciating that the writers of the show are giving him that time back, even though it's scattered throughout time. The rest of this, though, seems to be focusing on Apocalypse, right? We're in ancient Egypt with the rest of the characters, and Apocalypse is there. And Apocalypse is also, in the present day, possibly resurrecting Gambit as one of his 4 horsemen. That's something that Apocalypse always has every time he rises. He gathers 4 horsemen. Angel from the comics was an example of this in previous iterations of Apocalypse's character. So Gambit might be one of the horsemen known as Death. I would love to see Gambit resurrected, kind of as a villain, and I think that would be really cool. Another great use of that character that I'm excited for in Season 2. And Magnus and Xavier are stranded together in Egypt, with a younger version of Apocalypse and the other X-Men. I really am excited to see how this plays out, because we haven't seen Magneto and Xavier together really all season until this finale. And now they're going to be with each other, for this next season. I'm excited to see it, and we might get to see them kind of co-leading this team, because Magneto did have some time leading the X-Men in this season, and they might be working together now. They've bonded within a shared mind. This time they have together could be really interesting for their characters, and also could lead to Onslaught, which is a whole nother beast in itself, but man, would it be cool. So that's what I'm hoping for next season. I really love this show. I hope you guys love this show. I know it's getting a lot of great reviews. Overall, I'm going to give this finale a 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Just these 3 episodes together, what a beautiful arc. Ties up all the loose ends I want, and really kind of gives more leeway into what the future of this show might be. All in all, I'm going to give this show a 9 out of 10. Only thing that I think might be better than it is Loki. But let me know what you guys think of X-Men 97. What's your favorite episode? What's your least favorite episode? How much do you hate my takes? How much do you love my takes? Like, comment, subscribe, please. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk about. If you like X-Men and you want a little bit more content on it, watch my other video on it, or I just did a drawing on my YouTube Shorts of Deadpool and Wolverine. That'll probably be linked in the end card, so, give that a watch and a like maybe. It's only a minute long. I will see you guys later. Bub, because, bye-bye, bub, I. Okay, so Wolverine always says bub, right? And what's funny about that is it's kind of like his catchphrase. So me saying bub I, it's